Hey, welcome to Playing for Keeps, the show where we take a deep dive into emotional intelligence, sex, love, adult attachment theory, mental health, therapy, and everything in between that creates great relationships. Your host, DJ, is a certified life coach and emotional intelligence practitioner. She's here to be of service to all the listeners interested in love and relationship. Now, here's your host, DJ.
Hello, everyone. This is your girl DJ with Plan for Keeps podcast. And today we have a special guest. We have Christa Norris. She is an intuitive coach and energy healer at Shape Your World Coaching, supporting and helping women around the world. Christa is a trained and certified life and relationship coach, and she is also a spiritual and energy healer. Intuitive with over 20 years experience, Christa supports you to achieve your goals in life, relationships, career, and business by aligning you with all you need within so that you can receive your dreams like magic. How are you doing today, Christa?
I am doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, most definitely. No, thank you for coming on. Someone with your expertise, it's always exciting to have someone with your knowledge come on the show. So why don't you tell us just a little bit, more about yourself and what you've been doing within the last 20 years, how you got into relationship and life coaching, what is an energy healer, just everything that you've been doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, it's kind of a big question because my journey, like a lot of people's journeys, and I'm sure many of your listeners as well, and viewers, my journey has been really winding. It's not as if where the line between where I began and where I am now was a straight one. There's a lot that has happened over the years, and essentially for me, if I back up a little bit, I've always been a very curious, searching person in general. Even from the time I was a little girl, I've always been very inquisitive. I like to know and try to figure things out. I like to, as much as I can, to know the answers to things. I like to try and make sense of things. And combined with that, my mom is a therapist. And so when I was growing up, there were always these magazines. There was a magazine called Psychology Today. And I mean, it sounds kind of geeky, but it's true. I used to read those for fun. I remember reading them when I was about 7.
Wow.
I thought I was kind of naughty, and I would sneak into my parents' room and go through her Mom's Psychology Today magazines. and I think for me, the interest in my inquisitiveness taking on an additional layer of also being interested in people and how we as human beings work, how our brains work, how our emotions work, and so on and so forth, really began, from that point when I was a young girl growing up. And so if I fast forward, so I've always had that interest. And then I to not forget, I also have a spiritual side. And for me, the connection between human thought, human behavior, and emotions with spirituality, with the natural world, with Mother Nature. For me, I don't see those, and I don't feel that they need to be separate at all. If anything, I feel, and it's been, how do I say this? My experience over the years, and certainly my training, and the work I do now with women, helping and supporting them in their journeys. If anything, that belief of mine that really did begin from the time I was a small girl that those things can be connected. And actually, it makes perfect sense to me for it to be connected, has just been cemented over the years and solidified. So, and what I mean by that, just to explain a little bit more, in case anyone may be feeling a little bit confused of what I mean, I feel, and I have my own personal life experiences with this, as well as my training and what I see from my clients, is that there can be a point where, let's say you're searching for something. Let's say that you're feeling unsettled in your life, or uncertain, or like, let's say you like more confidence, you'd like a sense of peace and well-being, you'd like to feel more at ease. That combined with whatever is your spiritual beliefs, whatever is your connection to Mother Nature, I feel are very intertwined. If you're not feeling settled in your life, in any area of your life, chances are there's a piece of you, you may call it your inner spirit, your soul, your energy, whatever you call it. If you're not feeling settled within yourself and in any area of your life, chances are you're also not feeling settled on that other level, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. And for me, again, from the time I was a really little girl, I had memories, as early as 3, actually, maybe a bit younger. It was whenever I would go outside that I just immediately felt a sense of ease. And that connection to Mother Nature in the outdoors is something that I really came to naturally. And it's only been in recent years with my trainings and so on that I've realized deeper layers of why that connection for me at such an early age was actually so valuable. And I'm grateful it's something I've held on to. One of the things I've noticed through my training, as well as what I just see in the world, friends and loved ones and so on, is that a lot of, and of course, not everything, there will be exceptions, but a lot of the unhappiness in the world, a lot of the feelings of not being satisfied with your life, not feeling confident, or perhaps not feeling worthy of your goals. If you are able to have a connection within yourself to your spiritual side with Mother Nature, so many of these difficulties begin to float away. It's not like it's a magic cure, just going outside and connecting with Mother Nature. It's not that that's going to instantly solve everything, but what it's going to do is it's going to help you to be so much more grounded, and it's going to help everything that you navigate from there on out and there on through to feel and be so much easier for you to handle, so much easier for you to even think about dealing with.
I can definitely agree with you, especially when you talk about just learning to go within. Just in life, like, so many people look outward to fix their problems, whether it's religion or a person, another person, or their job or their career, and they make it their identity, and they wonder why they're so unhappy. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and everything you're saying too. It's a big impact even with relationships, because when we don't know how to go within first and figure ourselves out and know ourselves, it's kind of hard to really have a healthy relationship even with other people, especially if you're outside of yourself for happiness. I know that's a huge thing now, just in general. So a lot of the things that you're saying is I definitely can relate, and I'm learning myself even to be more one with nature. That's something I am becoming familiar with myself. Because like you said, it can help you be more grounded even within that journey of knowing yourself. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing all of that. I love that that it's connected with you and what you've added. Yeah, I completely agree with what you've said as well. And so, yeah, that for me, again, it's only really been in more recent years that I've realized just how much of a gift that just that deep inner knowing that there was something there about Mother Nature. There was something there that I actually needed, even from the time I was a little girl. I mean, I grew up in a big family. I have 4 sisters. There were 7 of us at home, and there was a lot of up and downs, you know, as can be with family life, especially when you have that many people. There was a lot of, you know, noise. There was always something going on. And one of the things I've realized in recent years is that my personality type, I'm also an introvert. And so for me, having that just natural sense of, from the time I was very little, of, you know what, I need to go outside right now. I'm just going to go outside. I'm just going to go outside.
Wow.
Realize
Wow.
that not only was that helping me to feel what I needed in those moments as that little girl, of whatever peace would help me, whatever would help me to feel and be more grounded within myself and my energy, even from that age. Not only did it help me on that level, but as an introvert as well, what I've realized is that feeling grounded and being at peace, introverts, we actually charge ourselves from being alone, from being quiet, from being still. You know, things like listening to quiet music, or watching a movie, but not necessarily talking to anyone. You know, you can be in a room with others, kind of quiet and still. And so, yeah, so as an introvert, I, you know, realized recently how much of an introvert I am. Naturally, although I learned to play an extrovert on TV, in the big family I had. But again, you know, I've realized what a gift it is that those things just came naturally to me to do. I didn't even question it. I just did it.
Right.
And so that was really my early childhood. And those sorts of things have definitely stuck with me, along with my inquisitive nature, along with this deep part of me that has always really wanted to know answers, and actually has striven to find answers to things. And so if I fast forward, I then, you know, I've been working really since I was 16. That's when I had my first paying job. And I entered, I guess, traditional workplaces. So, you know, offices and so on, when I was 19. And, you know, I did all of that really, I would say, for, 15, almost 18 years. And then towards the end of my professional career, I, again, you know, my route, my path was quite winding. So I've done a lot of different things, but towards the end, I was doing projects work, events, a lot of admin. And then I began my own freelance management consulting business. And I would go in, you know, all the way from multinational FTSE 500 businesses and companies, all the way down to smaller 1 and 2 person businesses. And I would help them, you know, CEOs, directors, senior managers, with their strategies, their development, the tools they were using, and how to help them evolve from where they were to where they wanted, or especially in the cases of the multinational organizations, where they needed to be, because often those things were being handed down to them from even higher up. And And while I enjoyed that work, and I know from client feedback rather, that I was able to help them quite a bit, it was very interesting. I remember it very clearly because I was in the middle of doing all of that work, and I was at a client's location, their office space. And it was the funniest thing because I heard this voice. I heard this voice, and at the same time, it was like I felt it within me. And the more I listened, the more I realized it was whispering to me, and it was saying, "You're so close. You're really close, but you're not quite there." And at the time, I was actually really frustrated to hear that. I thought, what? Because just to get to that point of doing freelance management consulting, it had been a really winding road just to get there. Right. But I'm also grateful that one of the things that in hindsight I've realized really began developing for me again when I was a really small little girl is that I've always had a very strong connection with my own intuition, whether or not I chose to listen to it.
Okay, I know how that is.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. Teenagerhood, young woman years, and so on.
Right.
But that connection, it's always been there. And so I'm grateful I listened to the voice when it said, you're so close, but you're not quite there. And because I was a project manager and had that, and I do have that logical side to my brain, at that point, I wasn't trained yet as a coach or in energy healing and so on. So I used the tools I had, which was project managing. And literally, I took project management strategies and exercises, and I applied them to myself. And I treated myself like my own project to manage. And wow. Yeah, and I'm so grateful I did that. And so it was during that process, it was probably, it didn't take long for me. It was probably the next week, maybe 2, that it was like this really beautiful light bulb moment. And I realized that there was something else waiting for me. There was something else that my soul was trying to give me a message about. And in hindsight, now with the training and things my skill set now, I realize it was also what I call my spirit guide team trying to speak with me as well. And the universe trying. And so I listened, and it was during that time. So again, maybe 1 or 2 weeks after I heard that gentle whisper. And on Facebook, the wonders of wonders, I saw an ad on Facebook, and it was for a life coaching school. And I realized later while doing the training that I was probably one of the few people in the world who had genuinely never heard of life coaching at that point.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was. So, wow. So I looked into it, I did the training, and I realized while during it that actually being a coach, helping others, having that side of myself that likes to try and find answers to things, I've been doing that all of my life. And that's a lot of what being a coach is about, except you're helping people.
Right.
And I realized that actually the freelance work I was doing was also a really amazing foundation block to my work as a coach and a healer. Because whereas before I was helping businesses with their strategies and development, the tools they needed, the systems they needed to get them to where they wanted to be.
Wow.
Now I help people. Now I help women with their strategies, development, systems, and tools so they can get to where they want to be.
That is amazing. That's definitely amazing. I had my own light bulb moment, but I didn't listen. And then I ended up getting let go. And I was kind of forced in my own predicament to look into life coaching and then kind of develop my own. I never listened to the voice. I always just like, nah, that doesn't make sense. But then life happens and I'm forced into certain predicaments. So I'm learning now to be more still and actually listen to that inner voice when it's telling me something. And so I'm not kind of, it's like I'm blindsided, but then I'm not really blindsided because it was kind of already brought to my attention. I just kind of ignored it. So I have a similar story on how I got on the path that I'm on now to entrepreneurship myself. But it was more so of me I was just tired of I wouldn't say I was tired of working for people because I loved my job, but I felt like there was just something bigger for me. I was in HR, so I was always helping people and things of that nature too. But I always just felt like there was just something out there that was bigger. So I definitely can relate. And I kind of I was on a winding road myself. Me being someone who had just got their GED, I ended up in a corporate position as a corporate recruiter making like $70,000 a year, which is kind of unheard of with somebody with a GED education. So I was just like, no, I can't quit this job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, even I got let go anyway. And it was just like, okay, well, it's time for me to focus on what I feel is bigger for my life. So I kind of have a similar story. So I definitely can relate to that as well. Let me ask you this. I know with all of your experience, you helping women and things of that nature, particularly in relationships, I know a lot of people deal with childhood trauma and how it could subconsciously play out in our adult life. Like I can give you an example and then maybe you can kind of walk me through how you would help a woman in this predicament. So me in my childhood, I had let's call it daddy issues. I had daddy issues where I didn't get along with my father. And in adulthood, in relationships, what I used to do and what I'm growing out of, I would get with dismissive type men, right? Because my dad was kind of a dismissive person. And this is just me and what I feel I was doing. So because I would also other type of guys who liked me that were more attentive, but I didn't like them. So I would give it the dismissive kind of guy, and I feel like I was trying to win my father's approval as a child, but couldn't. And I feel like as an adult, in my subconscious, I would get with these dismissive men, and I would try to win them over, like I couldn't with my father. Do you run into women in similar, probably not the same exact situations, but similar situations, or do you run into clients who play out their childhood traumas in their relationships on a subconscious level?
Thank you for that. And the answer is yes, absolutely, all the time.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that, and then just and how would a person move into not doing that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, great question. And honestly, it does depend on the person. I'm grateful I am in so many different techniques, different modalities, all the way from, slightly more traditional life coaching, which is a lot of mindset work, looking at your patterns, looking at, what your family life was like growing up, because all of those things, as you were mentioning as well, all of that, it does seep in to your being, to your brain, to your subconscious.
Right.
All those memories, part of what happens is, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your background, your age, none of it matters. This is just how we work as human beings. All of that gets taken in through all of your sensory information, right? So your eyes, your ears, your nose, if it's something you smell, smell, your tongue and mouth if it's something you taste, your skin if it's something you touch, all of it, whatever you're experiencing, or even if it's something you just hear about, you know, someone else sharing something to you of what has happened, something you see playing out in front of you. All of that gets taken in, and what happens is it goes straight through from your sensory inputs to your, where does it go? It goes to your short-term memory bank in your brain. And it happens so fast. I mean, it's like that, super quick. And it goes within, you know, milliseconds to your short-term memory bank of your brain, then to your long-term memory bank. And in the very same instant, your brain sends signals down to your body. And so, and all of that, that's what in coaching and therapeutic, so therapists as well would refer to this as either muscle memory or physiological memory. You could also think about it that your body holds your stored memories. And so all of that gets taken in and it just stays there, right? It's stored. Once it's stored, that's it. It's kind of like, you could think about it like a computer chip, like a microchip, or a part of your computer or a part of your phone or software. Once that information, that data packet, some people might think about it in those terms, but once that information gets stored, it is there to stay. And the only way it can change or be removed or switched with something else, let's say it's a memory and you experienced it and it really affected you, and it was painful, and maybe some of the listeners as well, maybe there will be things for them that they went through that or saw or that was painful or traumatic. The only way to release those memories and to shift them and to shift and change the way that they affect you, because that's the other thing, unless you receive support and help with these things, those parts of your body that have those memories stored within, it's like they are frozen in time, those parts of you. And that's why like inner child work or connecting with your inner teenager, that's why things like those types of work and exercises, one, are so popular, but two, why they're so powerful is because those parts of you, they are always within. And for them, it's like no time has shifted at all. It's like no time has passed between whenever you first experienced, whatever you first saw, and that information got stored within your body, in your brain. And it's like no time passed between then and the person and the woman that you are now, today. And so when you realize that you can be running these unconscious patterns, the record on repeat, one, that can be very empowering, but two, I hope it helps for anyone watching and or listening to this to know that you're definitely not alone either. You're definitely not alone. And it's something that I see all the time. It's interesting that you asked about childhood memories, because I have found that, I was going to say the vast majority of my clients, but actually it's all of my clients. All of them have had and continue to have had experiences from the time they were very small children, little girls, that really affected them and really continue to, and unless they're receiving support. And obviously that's part of why they come to me, is for that help and support. And so when we're talking about relationships or intimacy, things that you can experience, things that you can go through, things that chances are because again, this is something we all do to some extent. I don't know of any human being who doesn't do some aspect of this. Because you have all of that stuff still in your body, in those stored memories and emotions, it's very easy, and it can be difficult to get out of replaying those patterns. It can feel and be difficult to not play that record on repeat. And by that record on repeat, what I mean is it can feel and be incredibly difficult, again, without and so on, to not be repeating things that you either experienced or you saw or you witnessed in some way from the time you were a small child.
Too, just the culture, today's culture to a certain extent, because I think so many people have trauma, it kind of feeds into the negative behavior. Like, I'll give you another example. So for me is what I hate being ignored. Like, it's a trigger for me. And, sometimes I will forget that this other human being has a life, and this other human being may have something going on at that moment, or they may be going through something. And, another thing that I went through in childhood was feeling kind of abandoned and ignored. Me, anyway. Your parents always think that you're being dramatic, but with me and my own experience, I felt that. So when I feel like I'm being ignored by somebody that I care about, I kind of lash out. And the reason why I brought up today's culture is because, people are so quick now to be like, well, if that person ignored you, or they can't respond to you in a certain matter of time, or blah blah blah, this, that, and the third, you should drop them. And it's like, where's the compassion? You get what I'm saying? Where do we consider other people's feelings and other people's emotions, or another person's triggers, or do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I love this question too. Thank you again. And and I think for me, in order to really answer it, because part of what you're talking about, I feel it's also, it's sort of a multi-pronged issue. It has a lot of different angles, a lot of different layers, some of what you're describing. And because there's the individual, right? So whoever is the person who's experiencing things and maybe feels emotionally triggered, but perhaps doesn't realize it. And those who don't know what emotional triggers mean, because not everyone may, what that means is it's any time you're finding yourself with strong emotions, whatever those emotions are, that from the outside, or if you think back on it, you may think to yourself, why did I react that way? It may not be completely justified for the situation. That's being emotionally triggered. And what's going on there, just really quickly and briefly, is that is those deeper emotions, those stored emotions, your inner child, inner teenager, whatever part of you is holding on to whatever you experienced in your past. There's something about whatever you currently go through, or whatever you're hearing, whatever it is, there's something about it that reminds that part of you of what you went through before. Right. And that's part of why when anyone, whether it's yourself or anyone else, that's part of why when someone is emotionally triggered, it can make those situations on many levels even more difficult to navigate your way through, because it's not the adult you,
right,
that's in the to the situation. You see what I mean? It's not who you are. It's that part of yourself, that younger version of you, how they feel about the world. That's one part of the difficulty. The other thing, I mean, especially given, our current climate, there's a lot going on in our world, right? There's that is affecting everyone on some level. Some perhaps a bit more, perhaps more than others, but everyone's being affected in some way. And so when you have someone, whoever you are, and you have your own emotional triggers, you have your own stored emotions, stored memories, your own past pain, traumas, difficulties, and you are in a world, in a situation where there's a lot of uncertainty around you, a lot that, even politicians, those in government, not everyone has the answers to. Everyone's doing their best. Well, that can make it even more difficult. And to touch on one other aspect of what you were just mentioning with your question as well. So that's one aspect of the multi-pronged topic. You have the individual, you also have what can be going on in the world and around you. Or, if, let's say, we weren't in the middle of COVID-19 and we weren't in the middle of, greater awareness and the protests that are, very rightly going on and so on. Let's say there's something around you within your family or your friends group, and that can be equally triggering for some, depending on what it is. So you have those two aspects. You have the external, whatever's going on around you, as well as yourself. Well, there's another aspect that adds to the complexity. And that can be, what are the messages that you've been given from the world at large? So it can be like media, music, films, books. There are all of those other societal influences that can affect you, and that, again, your brain and your subconscious and your energy, so your stored emotions and memories, they're taking all of that too.
Right. Absolutely.
And so you can see why, part of why it is so difficult and can be for so many people. And especially now when we're, dealing with everything that we are in the world.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. I know last week or the week before last, I did a podcast about just how drained I was feeling from everything that was going on. And then also I had my own personal stuff that happened within that week. And the conclusion I kind of came up to myself was, because I know that overall I'm a genuine person, and I put my feelings and emotions on the table, and this person took me totally wrong. And I think, to make the complex a little more simple, I think people should allow people to, I believe people should actually give back the responsibility to the other person of their own feelings. Be honest and open about how you feel about the situation. Don't dismiss the other person's feelings, but be honest and give them their responsibility to carry how they feel about the outcome, because at the end of the day, we can't just please everyone. Just kind of touching on what you said. As long as you're a person that's being honest and you're giving it out in a loving way, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving somebody the responsibility to carry their own feelings towards the situation or any situation. So I don't know how you feel about that. But I know that has helped me to kind of just, because I'm a people pleaser by nature, and now I'm trying to be more, not saying more for myself, but before I give out, now I think twice. Like, am I going to feel some type of way before, am I going to feel some type of way if this person doesn't reciprocate? If I don't, then I give. But if I do, if I know I do, then I tell them in a loving way, no. And then I tell them why. So that was kind of the situation of that week. And like I said, with everything else going on in the world, it completely drained me. That's why I brought that up. But that person also brought their triggers and why they were feeling some type of way. And it was totally outside of what the topic was about. So, Yeah, that's why I brought that up, because it just reminded me of a couple of weeks ago when everything was really, really hitting and going on, and the protesters were really out, and cases were fresh, and then with COVID-19 and everything being closed down, and then that. So yeah, what you said kind of hit home a couple weeks ago. So that's why I brought that up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So another question of mine, I know another friend I was speaking to kind of on this subject, because I think she kind of has the same issues that I have with um, when she feel like she's being ignored, she kind of goes off. One thing that I tell people, I don't coach people, but when I do, I give advice and stuff to friends. One thing that I told her, like, before you decide to explode or before you feel like you're about to go off, is feel where you're feeling anxious before you get upset. And I know what I do, like I'll close my eyes for a second, I'll picture a mini me traveling down. Me, it's always in my gut, like when I feel like I'm about to go off. And like in the past, I'll be like, dang, why did I do that? You know what I'm saying? And I find out when I really thinking it, and I think, okay, that wasn't really necessary. You know what I'm saying? I'll go there, I'll travel to my gut, and I will actually sit with that feeling, like I'm sitting with that inner child. And I talk to that feeling, like, let's figure out, do we really need to go off about this situation? And I'll sit and I'll talk to that feeling for a second before responding. Like, I'll just take a second and think before I actually explode. So I know that's something that I tell people, because I found that I was sabotaging relationships that could have been great, because I wasn't thinking about the other person, or I knew they had issues going on with their life, but I was just like, well, I'm this amazing person and I still should be put first. Like, that's how I used to think. So would you agree with a technique like that to start off for somebody who's just trying to figure out what they're trying to do with going off and kind of sabotaging different relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I would never say that connecting with yourself and your emotions is a bad thing.
Okay.
At all, whatever we're talking about, whatever anyone is experiencing or going through. I love that you do that. I think that's a really powerful and very empowering also thing to do for yourself, and for all those parts of you, because part of what is happening as well, whenever we are triggered, whenever you have those emotions coming up, whenever you're feeling certain ways and, uncomfortable ways, or angry or upset, and if you're not able to let those feelings go, there's always a deeper reason why.
True.
Always a deeper reason. And often what's going on, from a coaching perspective and a healing and therapeutic perspective, is that those deeper parts of you, so again, it could be your inner child, your inner teenager, any part of you that is holding on to stored and past emotions, pain, memories, and so on. When those feelings don't just go away, when you're feeling yourself being triggered, and you can't snap yourself out of it, what's happening is those deeper parts of you are trying to get your attention. There's something they need. There's something they're trying to tell you. And there's something they're feeling concerned about. Whether or not when, you listen to and look at whatever they're feeling concerned about, whether or not you as, an adult woman now would say, well, yeah, that's something to be worried about.
Yeah.
Part of you is feeling worried, and there's a thing, I'm sure all of us, everyone will, watching and listening this, will connect with and agree with in some way at least. And it's that emotions are hardly ever rational, hardly ever. And, even if when you speak with that part of you, and for instance, the exercise you mentioned is a beautiful way to do that. I think that's a great one. Even if when you speak to that part of you, your adult part of you can say, oh, actually, we don't need to worry.
Right.
And have that conversation with that, stored memory within you that you're talking to. You can literally talk out loud and have a conversation with them and help them to feel better about it. That doesn't stop that part of you from having those worries.
Right. And that was the next question I wanted to get into, because I know some people will say you need to work on just getting rid of all of those parts of you that kind of just, that doesn't speak to the person that you are trying to be. But I feel like in a way that's kind of impossible. So I guess for me, it's actually, like I said, sitting with that part of myself, soothing that part, letting that part know that I'm there for them as an adult and that it's okay. Like, I know that there's practices where they say, well, they'll feel that part out and they'll speak to that part and say, well, you don't serve me anymore. But I feel like sometimes maybe that part can serve you, but it's just talking with that part to figure out if what they are concerned about is really a concern or not. I don't know. That's where I do somewhat agree with other people who say that, because sometimes those parts, depending on because maybe you have a vindictive side. You don't need to be that at all. That you do need to let that go. But if there's just certain issues, like maybe you have fear of abandonment, maybe that concern is a real concern, and that inner child is coming out because they're seeing something from the past that was experienced before. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love all of this. And I completely agree. I feel that, honestly, I think and feel, this is from my own experience as well as, in helping women, it really does depend on the person. It depends on what is going on specifically, what that person has gone through, what memories they're holding on to, what pains and traumas they have stored. Because it can sometimes be, one, and sometimes it can be the other. Sometimes it can be that there is something genuine that your deeper parts are trying to put your attention to because it will actually help you. And other times it can be, well, they're feeling fearful because there's something about what you're going through that reminds them of what you already went through, but that you, the adult, know that this time it is different.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the situation. It depends on the person. One of the things I would say with all of this is that if you're feeling yourself experiencing triggers or those parts, your deeper parts, if you're feeling concerns or worries and you can't just snap yourself out of it, again, there's always a deeper reason why. So it's always worthwhile finding out what those reasons are. And two, if you're in a situation where you're even wanting to know what the answers are behind your worries and fears, that's a huge clue that the adult part of you knows there's something deeper going on. We all, part of what can happen is that, again, this goes all the way from early childhood for each of us. So many of us, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners and watchers will relate to this as well, so many of us can go through life being given or receiving messages that the way and this is especially true for women historically, and other, ethnicities and so on. But so many of us can receive messages and take in that the way you're feeling, your thoughts, and the things that make you, that there's something wrong with them, that there's something wrong with you. And historically, I think, obviously that's a huge part of what we're seeing now in our current world events. A lot of people realizing and rightly saying, enough, we need to stop this.
Right.
but and along with that, part of what we're seeing in our greater world is that there are these really heavy generational burdens and legacies that many of us have been holding on to and experiencing, and it literally from a psychological point of view, as well as sociological point of view and anthropological, historical, generational patterns are seen time and time again throughout the world, throughout time, throughout history. And it takes something like what we're seeing in our world at the moment, sometimes to really shift those things, to really shake them up, and give people permission and help them to have the awareness that things need to change. Now that's something on a grander, wider scale. But when we're talking about the individual, whoever may be watching and listening to this, there can be a lot that just you within yourself can be holding on to as well. You have your own life, your own experiences, your own memories. At the same time, there are things that get handed down in families, stories, belief systems, patterns. And with those patterns and belief systems and so on, they have their own energy, their own force. And at the same time, they have their own pains and struggles get taken in and carried by you without realizing it. So speaking with your inner child is something, or any part of you that's coming up, if you're feeling and experiencing it or being triggered, is a really powerful and beautiful thing to do for yourself. And that can help you to realize what is going on for you and that part of you within the moment. And when you go deeper with this work, and again, that's where, a coach or a therapist or whoever you're receiving support from can help you to look at those deeper layers, because from a therapeutic point of view, there can also be much deeper things going on. And again, for women, there is a lot that we carry and have done for thousands of years.
Right.
And there's a lot that, people talk about, the universal conscious collective, the human being family. There's also, I've realized this recently, I heard it again, like a gentle whisper. There's also a female collective, the woman collective. And there's a lot that we're all holding on to. And part of what we're seeing now, also at this time in our world, and, especially this year, well, frankly, especially since Donald Trump was elected with the Women's March, there are many of us as women who are realizing and feeling more and more, and at deeper levels, that the old ways of living, the old ways of being simply do not match who we are now and who we need to be. And that is absolutely reflected, for each of us within ourselves individually as well. And things like relationships and family patterns and so on are absolutely a part of this and a part of what is going on in our world right now. And a part of why so many of us have these deep feelings that something needs to change, because it does.
Agreed. Okay. Now let me ask you this. We're gonna totally kind of switch subjects. So
yes.
3 questions. First question is, do you have a memory, whether it's your first kiss or a special romantic, like your first special romantic moment, like within your life? Do you have a memory like that you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience?
I have many. Let me think of one. Let's see. Yeah, it's funny. I have a few different memories kind of shifting around for me that I'm thinking of, and one of them is my very first kiss when I was 16, and this guy named Trevor, who my mom really liked because his worked for the city. So she thought, oh, he's a good boy. So first kiss with him, and another one with another past boyfriend who I actually moved to England for. When I was 23, I moved to England, and we were engaged and so on. So yeah, him. And yeah, someone else as well. So yeah, I do have those memories.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So I don't know if you're married or if you're dating, but if you were either you're dating and whether you're married or if you're out dating, name 3 places you would like to go or 3 things you would like to do for a first date or on a date.
Oh, I'm a big experience person. Meaning, I mean, I like receiving things sometimes as gifts. I love things that can also create really happy memories.
Okay.
So the thing that's immediately popping up is, again, and it doesn't surprise me given our conversation, but something outside, something in nature, like a beautiful sunset,
Wow.
Maybe walk somewhere and seeing something that I didn't know was there, but it's just immensely beautiful. It could be like a special flower bush or a view or a waterfall, whatever it is, or a special tree. I love trees.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me ask you this. Would you say your love language is receiving gifts, or do you know what your love language is?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it is. I last looked into it quite a few years ago. I think it's acts of service.
Okay, that makes sense too.
Yeah, with the whole experiential thing. Experiences, yeah. So acts of service, and I feel like there was one more along with that. It was something about communication.
Was it quality time or words of affirmation?
Yes. Oh no, sorry, it was affirmations.
Words of affirmation. Mine's is quality time and then words of affirmation. Hence, I keep saying that I don't like being ignored. So those 2 are my love languages. Those are my love languages. Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, I love that.
So last question. Where would you go anywhere in the world to visit? Name 3 places, 2 with a partner and then 1 by yourself.
Well, I'm a big traveler. I actually, starting in 2016, I started traveling, and I only finished really January of this year. So, yeah, I love traveling. I started where I was living in England. I went all across the UK, all over Europe, and then came back to the US, and I've been traveling here too. So I think,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I genuinely feel like it's my version of Eat, Pray, Love.
Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. But as for where to go now, well, I've never been to Bali. I keep hearing about people going there, and I would love just to experience it. This island off of Australia, for those who don't know. So yeah, I'd really like to go to Bali. I've never been to Mexico, which is crazy because I grew up in Colorado as well, so very close. And I'd love to go there.
Okay.
And let me think, one more place. Oh, Well, I'm going to be moving to California in the next month, and
Oh, wow.
I'm very excited about that. I keep having visions of my home, and my dream home, it's going to be, I hope, a cottage along or very close to the ocean where I can hear the waves.
I'm pretty sure if you're envisioning it and you hear the waves, it's definitely not going to be a hope. It's definitely happening. So that is awesome. I'm already congratulating you. Wow. I want to visit California so bad. So congratulations on that as well. Okay. Let me ask you this. Tell us what projects you have going on right now.
Absolutely. Thank you again for asking. There are a few I have going on. I'm very grateful. I guide and host 2 different Facebook groups for women. One of them is called Creating Magic in Your Everyday Life. And it's also called the Magical Sisterhood. It's kind of a group that's great if you're either maybe more starting out in your spiritual journey, if you're interested in things like energy work or the law of attraction or Mother Nature, Gaia, all of that, and you'd like to learn some more. It's also a great group as more of an introduction to me and the work that I do and the ways I can help you. So that's it's on Facebook again, and I think the last part of the address, so it's facebook.com/groups/create magic in your everyday life. That's that one. The other Facebook group I am also, again, really grateful to guide and host is called Red Tent Woman. So it's the same, it's facebook.com/groups/Red Tent Woman. And this is a paid opportunity. It's a paid investment opportunity at the moment until June 26th. So depending on whenever anyone is watching or listening to this, it may or may not still be going on, but until June 26th, I'm very grateful to be offering an incredibly special offer of only $25 a month to join us. After that, after June 26th, the investment will be $111 per month, which is still really reasonably priced. I know from seeing everything else that's out there, a lot of what's out there. And in the group, this is also for women, and this is something that is born out of actually a vision, an image that came to me a little over a year ago now.
Okay.
And it was literally me on a beach in a red tent, guiding and leading women in sisterhood, women's circles, deep Mother Nature connected, very earthy, very primal, connective work and empowering and healing work as well. So the Facebook group is a culmination of that for now. And I know there will be live opportunities in the future once we're all able to do more things live. And it's a group for women that's very empowering. There are workshops, classes. I always do Facebook Lives, energy readings, group healings. We have full moon ceremonies, new moon ceremonies.
Wow.
And that group as well, it's again, something in my vision for it, and I know why I received it, why I received that image, is that there's something, one, very powerful, very important, very sacred and magical about when we as women get together, and when we connect with one another and support one another. And again, the time for each of us as women to, for each of you to really be able to stand in your own empowerment, to release those old stories, to let go of the old ways of being that just aren't serving you, frankly. The time is now There's a lot of reasons for why this group feels and is so amazing, and again, why I know I've been guided to create it and share with everyone. So yeah, I would love to see anyone who feels connected and would like to know a bit more about the groups, as well as how I can help you at either of those. And they can always send me a private message as well.
Awesome. And all of that information will be in the show notes with the links to the group. Awesome. Okay, Christa, I just want to thank you for coming on today. The information that you gave was just so valuable, and I know will be very useful to everyone who is listening. So I will definitely share those links in the show notes. And until next time.
Thank you so much for being here with you, and for everyone and anyone who watches and listens to this. Thank you all. So grateful.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. If you like this podcast, please download and subscribe. If there's anything you would like to talk about in regards to relationships, or would like to be a guest on the show to speak on relationships or get advice, you can always connect via social media at Playing for Keeps, or email DJ at info@p4kdating.com. Thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.